What's up guys, KalipezTech here, coming at you with 5 reasons to buy the OnePlus Nord N100 in 2021. Let's get started. So my first reason to buy this phone in 2021 is the display. This phone has a 6.52-inch IPS LCD display with a 90Hz refresh rate. It has a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 269, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 82.9%. So this display, despite only being 720p, does look really nice. I barely even noticed that it's only 720p, and the 90Hz refresh rate really makes a difference too. As you can see here, the scrolling is a lot faster and smoother on this phone than you might expect on another phone that doesn't have a 90Hz refresh rate. Just to give you an idea of the difference a 90Hz refresh rate makes, I got an iPhone XS Max here that has a 60Hz refresh rate, and of course the OnePlus Nord N100 again has a 90Hz refresh rate. So taking a look at the scrolling, there's this versus this. So even though it is more of a little thing when we're talking about on-screen animation, when you're doing something like content consumption or playing a game on your phone, it definitely will make a difference because all that movement on the screen is going to be a lot smoother and easier on the eyes. In addition to all this, at just over 6.5 inches, this display is more on the large side. So if you're doing something where the details really matter, like reading or streaming videos or even editing photos, it is really going to come in handy. The next reason to buy the OnePlus Nord N100 in 2021 is the battery. This phone has a 5000 milliamp hour battery that supports 18-watt fast charging. So 5000 milliamp hour batteries are the biggest batteries you can get currently. Not only do these batteries have more life per charge than a smaller battery, but it's also going to have lots of longevity. So a couple situations where this is going to make a huge difference. If you're on the go a lot and don't always get the chance to plug in your phone, but still have to use it a lot throughout the day, having a larger battery is really going to come in handy because this one does last for quite some time. Also, if you prefer to keep a phone that you get for a really long period of time, if you don't like to have to keep getting a new phone after a year or two when your current phone wears out, having a larger battery like this is going to be good because all batteries do degrade over time. But with this one, since the battery is so large, you're not going to notice it right away. So after a few years, when most phones' batteries are going to be pretty much at the end of the line, this one is most likely going to have a little bit more life left in it. My next reason to buy the OnePlus Nord N100 in 2021 is the camera. Right up here, we got an 8 megapixel front-facing camera that is a hole punch design. I really like the look of this. It's super nice, doesn't get in the way of anything, and looks really clean and modern in general. On the back, we have a triple camera setup with a 13 megapixel rear camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and these are all really good features. Now unfortunately it doesn't have an ultra wide camera, but I do think the quality of the rear camera does make up for it. Now this is a picture taken by that rear camera, and as you can see it is a really nice high quality picture. Now if you are really into photography and expect flagship quality photos, then you are going to be disappointed, but for an entry-level phone like this, the photo quality is really good. I haven't seen very many phones in this same class that have a better quality than this, so it's definitely something worth pointing out. The image is super sharp, the details are really good, and overall the colors are definitely decent as well, especially again for a phone like this. Usually I'll see some sort of haze, some kind of unpleasantries in the photo when we're looking at the photos taken by a more entry-level phone. But on this phone, it might not be flagship level or anything like that, but for what it is, I was surprised in a good way. My next reason to buy the OnePlus Nord N100 in 2021 is the processor. Now this phone is getting 4 gigabytes of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 460 processor. I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and it came back with a single core score of 251 and a multi-core score of 1172. So while it's not the fastest phone out there, in comparison to a lot of the entry-level phones, this is definitely impressive. One phone I would compare to this phone is something like the Blue G91, which only has a multi-core score in the 800s. I believe it's somewhere around 850, whereas this one has 1172. And there's really not a ton that this phone can't do. It's definitely really good for an entry-level phone if you're doing stuff like web browsing, social media, even some photo editing, and some light gaming as well. You're not gonna have a whole lot of problems. It's gonna be able to run all of that just fine. Now, if you're doing more high performance activities, it might struggle a little, especially things involving huge files. But for what it is, if you're just doing your basic web browsing and all that kind of stuff, I don't think you'd be disappointed. My last reason to buy the OnePlus Nord N100 in 2021 is the storage. This phone has 64 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, really a good amount of storage. To put this into perspective, the iPhone 12 starts out at 64 gigabytes of internal storage and doesn't have microSD card expansion. So this phone actually does have an advantage over an iPhone, which is so much more expensive than this one. And for what this phone can do, for what it's really made for, you're probably not gonna have a whole lot of stuff that you're doing on a phone like this that will take up so much storage that you'd run out. You can shoot some decent videos with this phone, but if you do have a lot of videos, you can always get a microSD card to expand the storage. When it comes to apps, that's really where the internal storage is crucial because you can't really run an app from a microSD card. But with 64 gigabytes of internal storage, you'll be able to fit a real good amount of apps on the phone, no problem. Right now, I have all the apps I personally use on a daily basis downloaded onto this phone. All those apps are just under 4.5 gigabytes, and then the system itself is 16 gigabytes of space that you can't get out of having taken up, which is pretty average for system data these days. Put it all together and we got 22.11 gigabytes of space being used on this phone right now, and that's only 35% of the phone's total storage. So you still have plenty of space available to do whatever you want with. And I really doubt that you're gonna have that many apps to the point where you're not gonna have space for all of them. And if you have a lot of videos, again, you can just put it on a microSD card and it should be fine. Overall, if you're looking for a phone with super high-end, close to flagship performance, with the fastest processor, the best possible display that can shoot 4K videos and all that, then you're probably gonna be disappointed with this phone. But if you want a real solid entry-level device that's gonna not only last for a long time, but also perform pretty much any daily tasks you want it to, while still being able to take good pictures and give you a good content consumption experience, then the OnePlus Nord N100 is a real solid choice. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hopefully you found this information helpful. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.